It's a new season, a new theme, new laws, new players, new taxes, and a whole new set of issues. But also what might be some of the most interesting gameplay strategies yet for players by dividing the government into 4 townships and applying a small set of taxes that could offer huge amounts of economic creativity. First, about the towns. The devs will be coming out with an in-game structured version of nations, cities, towns, and some similar form of having local governments nested inside of other governments. Until then though, we've built our own, and so far, people seem to be loving the concept. It started with a world gen that has 5 main continents. 1 for where the central federal government would reside, and 4 others for each of the 4 townships. We pre-named them as Amazonia, Olympus, Petra, and Twin Peaks. You can kind of guess by the names that each has a predominant presence of one biome, but they each have a little diversity. What we wanted is for each continent to be its own town, with its own government, and an ability to operate and express their own behaviors and gameplay, while still falling within some overarching federal laws. In prior seasons, the federal or world government provided the majority of the build programs and was the only world government for all players. Not true this season. The intention is to have a big part of the programs coming out of each town's citizens and local governments. But the federal government isn't without its influence in this mayhem. So I want to cover one of the main drivers behind this 4-town concept, and that is taxes. Yes, the dreaded evil tax. So the tax itself is fairly straightforward, but the strategies it opens up and the gameplay it offers are pretty vast. I should also explain that I'm the initial treasurer of this season, and the role historically comes with a steady stream of criticisms, complaints, and other things, but I'm used to it. Happens every season, and this season is no exception, particularly once the taxes were announced. This is how it works. This season, there was a 20% flat tax on all sales from any store in the world. Now, that seems like a huge amount, especially because in the prior season we had no taxes at all. So people freaked out about that, but there was a good reason. The taxes had to be high enough to serve 2 functions. The taxes were needed to provide a built-in, organic way to fund the local townships, and provide an incentive to encourage distribution of the population, as well as some amazing gameplay strategies I'll talk about in a second. First, the township funding. Now, there are multiple ways to do this, but prior methods of just transferring money from the federal treasury felt unnatural and didn't give the town governors a feeling of having much authority.
Denied.
It was like they were asking for their weekly allowance, so that was no good. Out of the 20% tax, half of that gets routed to the local township treasury accounts to fund them. But it wasn't just any sale. Only the sales from within a given town were routed back into that town's treasury. The more sales and generally prosperous a town could make itself, the more funding it received. More people also meant more funding, as there would be more stores doing business. But that just scratched the surface of this 4-town economy. For the township idea to work, people would need to be dispersed. Historically, people would sort of settle everywhere, but they would generally congregate around a single world city, and would at least set up their primary shops there to facilitate commerce between all the other citizens. Now, we have had sub-towns pop up in the past, but again, they had no good way to generate their own source of revenue without leveraging additional taxes, which would make them much less competitive economically. To solve this, a sales rebate was given to each store owner when they made a sale. The point of clarity on this taxation and rebate thing is that it happens to the store owner when they make a sale, not the person visiting the store. But there's a good reason for this. This server values transportation opportunities of goods, essentially buying items at one store and reselling them at a small profit to other stores. If transporters were taxed either when buying the goods or when reselling them, that would likely eliminate any small profit they'd make during the transport. So we tax the store owner when making the sale. It's easy enough for them to just mark up their prices a little to compensate. Now, back to this store owner rebate. The rebate is given on a couple factors. One, the store has to be in the same town as the residency of the store owner for them to be eligible for the rebate. This makes setting up stores in foreign towns potentially less profitable, as they'd have to take on the full 20% tax without the rebate. A second part of the rebate to the store owner is that it scales depending upon the town's population relative to the other towns. The lower a town's population, the higher the rebate, and vice versa. Towns with higher populations get lower rebates. What starts to form is an interesting push and pull dynamic. Higher populated towns that now also have their citizens' store established locally will get greater revenue due to the higher amount of trade, but its citizens will also get less rebate. This dynamic may invoke several player and township strategies. Store owners might decide to relocate to less populated towns to get the largest rebate. Governors may want to provide incentives to attract store owners back to their town to get the highest possible revenue generation. Store owners may opt to live and set up stores in those more lightly populated high rebate townships away from their needed resources, which offers more transportation opportunities of their needed resources in from another township. Governors may take measures to protect their continent's natural resources from this export activity to help keep the resources for its own citizens and their subsequent town sales revenue. Sprawling or scattered claims by individuals to ward off settling of newcomers may be frowned upon by both the town government and the citizens, as it could lower the revenue base. There's many scenarios and strategies to this push and pull framework. Even long abandoned properties need to be regularly handled, as those abandoned residencies increase the town calculated population and reduce the citizens' rebate. So the importance of how well a town is governed and takes care of its residents may completely influence the decisions of the citizens on the server. With the local governments having their own funding, a lot of the gameplay previously presented by the federal government will now be in the hands of the local towns, with the federal government just providing an overarching framework for everyone to work in, a global currency, and of course a few federally sponsored programs. This tax program may seem complicated, but it's really just 3 parts: a global tax for each sale, a routing of funds from each sale back to each local town treasury, and a rebate provided to the store owner that scales based on population and is dependent upon residency. It's a basic structure, but opens many possibilities, including one that just emerged where a governor decided to pay an extra bonus above the normal road building payout to citizens who helped to contribute to building higher priority roads in their town. I'm really looking forward to see what the players and government will come up with this season. And you can follow it too on this channel. Just don't forget to like and subscribe so you don't miss it.